My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, bathroom monitoring by Ontario International Airport. And the entity is amplifying plane activity, of course, in what is engineered light. That being heard inside of the apartment is called impossible audible activity. It's amplification, and it lets you know about what everyone around you is doing. They're all monitoring my genitalia in the bathroom right now, where being in the shower, being nude, engaging in personal and private activity is a matter of public information amongst sex offenders who not only work for, again, Alan D. WAPNER's Ontario International Airport. Okay, gang stalking over the airport. You'll look at the arrivals and the departures. I took a screenshot. There's no planes that are departing at what is 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 2:10 right now. And this is also the waste of millions of dollars of resources by sex offenders who are indeed Mike Lorenz and every demon-possessed gang-stalking sex offender working for the Ontario Police Department, using the heliport, wasting millions of dollars on resources, gassing up helicopters because they're obsessed with my genitalia. Because that's what this is. It's bathroom monitoring. All right, this is occurring in the specific environment. So here's my shadow that's on the ground, just so that you can understand what is gang stalking in the specific environment. This is not normal light activity, and there's another shadow over here on the wall. That's not the cause of a light activity that's naturally occurring under light fixtures. The same exact impossible light activity occurs while the fake sun remains planted right over this strip of the property, right over me while I stay inside of this apartment, and a bunch of sex offenders, elderly citizens who are equally demon-possessed, equally sexually violent, equally psychopathic, are obsessed with my genitalia, monitoring with a corrupt police department that's going to be disbanded, with a corrupt airport that's going to be shut down, where they are wasting money because they're gang stalking my genitalia in the bathroom. All right, it is a shame where the mayor is a sex offender, Paul Leon, because that's why you've got the demons that are on the city council, the president over the airport, who was a gang stalking sex offender, and he knows exactly what millions of dollars are used to waste. That is sex offenders, demons stalking in commercial planes, because they're gang stalking me while I'm getting undressed in the bathroom, and it's a matter of public information while demons are obsessed with what I do in the bathroom. Okay, my being nude, my private activity in the bathroom, it's a matter of public information, and that's why you have helicopter activity over a senior citizen complex, which is amplified inside of the apartment moments after I documented the sexual act of the perpetual sex offense committed by a corrupt airport that is going to be shut down. The Ontario International Airport is a sex offending gang stalker using commercial planes to engage in the perpetual sex offense. Monitoring somebody in a bathroom is a highly demented sex offense that the population's engaged in. These old people are not asleep. This is P.O.C. All right, it is currently 2:12 a.m. This is documentation of the sex offense inflicted by the entity. The City of Ontario is going to be prosecuted. The City of Ontario is a gang stalker. The City of Ontario is a sex offender, and so is every single last constituent. These are a demon-possessed population who practice sexual violence as a way of life. This is not only prosecuting the demonic system of gang stalking, I refer to it as federal group stalking and monitoring. It's exposing the threat, the public safety concern, who are the demon possessed, who regularly violate your privacy and your personal private information, such as your genitalia in a private space, is that which they share information about, knowing exactly what you're doing in the bathroom and then looking at you when you walk out of the bathroom like they don't know what's going on with you. Those are psychopaths and violent sex offenders. And the Ontario Police Department employ sex offenders who shall not be paid any salary or occupy any government building in the city or in the state where you are hiring and paying sex offenders to abuse resources that belong to the government. They are better off not existing, that they will be disposed of. Okay, it is currently, again, 2:13 a.m. This is P.O.C. It is currently 2:49 a.m. This is Wednesday, December 11, 2024, and as you heard on the podcast, the Ontario International Airport is a documented violent sex offender, and as you understand the system of federal group stalking and monitoring, you come to recognize that sexual violence is that which is committed by an entity as opposed to an individual person who is, for example, molesting your body with their hands. All right, something attached to a person. You are subject to what is sexual violence while an entity is gang stalking you, and that sexual violation of the person is engaged in ways such as corporate invasion of privacy by that entity. Okay, that is everybody that lives in the neighborhood, everyone in the city, all functions, all levels of government that are maintaining corporate knowledge about any and everything that you're doing at all times, including, okay, pivotal moments, private moments, okay, where you're not putting it on Facebook or what do you call it? I'm not on social media, forgive me. OnlyFans, where you're not seeking that sort of attention, and yet you've garnered that unbeknownst to you. That's a sex offense, and it's what the government practices that is engaged in group stalking. It's also group conduct. If you do not know, with regard to this group stalking system, demons are engaged in gang stalking, group stalking. Demons engage in conduct in groups. It's entirely demonic. And this sexual violence that a demon-possessed population secretly engages in. Understand, when you are at the shopping mall in the city, all right, the neighborhood mall, and you go into a bathroom stall and you're surrounded by what you do not know, because it's not a scary movie, and so people are not going to go around dripping blood out of their cheeks and looking disheveled. I mean, ordinarily you're looking at people that try to present themselves well. They all have a Facebook and an Instagram, and they're talking about, oh, be my friend, and they talk about what they do every day, but they're also demons and they're gang stalking, and that's what they're not talking about, and that's what they're not discussing, while demons are aware of what you do as you walk into a bathroom stall. And unbeknownst to you, you're not paying attention to the methods of stalking you with noise. You're not paying attention to the engineered light that's in the bathroom. You're not paying attention to the rhythm that is in sync with what you do, while a bunch of demons are maintaining presence around you in the bathroom, as opposed to what you would and what any other normal person would assume, that these are strangers, all separate, going about their own business, and they just happen to go to the bathroom, and that there's no rhyme or scheme to it. But that's not the case. It's a massive sex offense committed by the government that's gang stalking through the constituents of the state. And it's a sex offense where group stalking is underway, and the entity is maintaining surveillance not only by being in the bathroom. Remember, the sex offender is not going into the bathroom stall with you and molesting your body, and absent your consent is sitting there watching you disrobe and watching you and your genitalia and taking pictures. For example, sexual violence occurs with regard to the molestation of your person, with regard to the maintenance of engineered light, with regard to the demonic system where the demons are keeping you under surveillance, and they do so in private spaces, just like the Ontario International Airport is again right now at 2:53 a.m. I'm going to discuss what is the listed arrival arrivals and departures of the Ontario International Airport a widely exposed sex offender with regard to the appreciation for federal group stalking and monitoring that the states are practicing. And this is the prosecution of a public entity as a sex offender. This is the prosecution of a public entity as a stalker, specifically a gang stalker. And that's what California has achieved. And everybody in the state of California is holding that same title. They are gang stalking, group stalking on behalf of the government. It's the state's pattern of conduct. The people of the state are group stalking maliciously on behalf of the government. And that is the purpose of having a demon living in the apartment building number 55. Okay, Jay Burnett of the Ontario Police Department, who was going to federal prison and is permanently, officially done with law enforcement for the rest of his life. He cannot go in any other state in this country and be a police officer anywhere. But the purpose of group stalking is that Jay Burnett of the Ontario Police Department and this demon gang stalking by living at a facilitating venue, not a private residence, and has no constitutional protections, while living at what is an exposed crime scene, where the malicious system of group stalking is present. And what you are understanding is the mere difference between Jay Burnett, a demon that is masquerading in a uniform and wearing a badge. It is as criminal for Jay Burnett to be in the apartment above and keep me under surveillance while that demon lets that officer and lets the police department in and just set up shop in her apartment, in his or her apartment, and use any sorts of resources and just listen to everything that you're doing and just maintaining presence and pacing all around while you move around in the apartment and stalking and hitting walls and stomping and jumping up and down, throwing their bodies against the floor and vacuuming, and it sounds like a thunderstorm. Jay Burnett is not inside of the apartment, and Jay Burnett doesn't have to be inside of the apartment. Jay Burnett is present vicariously through the demon who has the same exact condition. This is a person that's the only difference is Jay Burnett puts on a costume and masquerades as someone that has authority under the law, and he does not. He actually does not. They're gang stalking. There is no constitutional authority afforded to any of these terrorist organizations who are engaging in domestic terrorism. This is the corruption of the executive branch. That's what California is engaging in. It's federal group stalking and monitoring. It's criminal surveillance, and it's demonic. All right. The difference between the demon that's living at a crime scene where you're seeing the fake sun and the fake moon and the entity that's gang stalking directly using helicopters and commercial planes, living at the crime scene is equally criminal and equally the criminal act of the same exact entity who is acting vicariously through demons who live at a crime scene, maliciously appearing as a private residence while just engaging in what is harassing conduct. And what are you going to do? Complain to the leasing office? Those are demons who are gang stalking you as well. And it is a sex offense while they are living all around you. 24-hour surveillance is what the government benefits from. While demons who fill a state, live at a facilitating venue, and as a way of life practice criminal surveillance and its demonic activity. This is not only criminal conduct by the government, it is the approval by the government to engage in criminal activity. This is why terrorist organizations who are entirely illegitimate, who are literally a waste of resources, the Ontario Police Department. To be caught as a department engaging in sexual violence is shameful, and that's exactly what they're doing in the specific environment while I am preparing to be indisposed in the bathroom, and it's a matter of public information where this demon that I'm documenting day in and day out, you know very well this demon in apartment 55, and everyone also knows she's going to a mental asylum. This same sex offender is monitoring with all of the city of Ontario while I am in the shower, nude, indisposed, necessarily touching and this is public information amongst a bunch of obsessed demons. Remember stalking. The nature of stalking is born of obsession. Why are strangers obsessed with you? Because they're demons. These are not normal people. Normal people do not have the ability to know where you're located inside of the apartment. And you know what they know, not because you have a crystal ball, but because they engage in a behavior pattern, speaking to, demonstrating specific knowledge about what you're doing, even at the moment that you do it. That's how you know what the demons know. That's how you prove what perhaps I discerned beforehand, because I spoke at the beginning of prosecuting the state of California. I told you exactly what the state of California is engaged in. I've documented and I have proven it even to the criminal standard beyond a reasonable doubt. And I told you before that that's exactly what they were doing, and I proved it with evidence. That is, it is not enough, and I understand this as a legal practitioner. I understand the law and how you prosecute in court. You cannot prosecute based on just what you know in your head, based on any spiritual gifts perhaps that you may have. That's not how you prosecute a case, however. And for your own protection, you should have solid evidence before you make allegations, especially against a government who has, as the demon-possessed entity, the city of Ontario, the state of California, has shown, they use resources such as demon sex offenders who are currently being paid salaries while engaging in criminal surveillance and sexual violence by working at an airport in the city. That airport is entirely useless, literally gorging money that can be better spent on rehabilitating this entirely corrupt municipality, the city. All right, getting rid of the corrupt fire department, the corrupt police department, the absolutely useless airport that's committed to criminal activity. And so this is what you want to commit your resources to engaging in. You are literally demonstrating the absence of any need for you to any longer exist. That goes for the Ontario Police Department. Sexual violence is recognized through what is equally unlawful touching. You don't want any stalker touching your body with their hands or any part of them or anything attached to their person or their genitalia. Likewise, you have a right to not be touched without your consent and knowledge, molested with that which is even naturally or normally occurring, and it is engineered like, and moreover, it's serving a criminal purpose, while an entity that has no constitutional authority is group stalking you, keeping you under surveillance for no legitimate purpose. It shall be recognized and appreciated as a sex offense. And where you have the government that's engaging in what is surveillance in a bathroom, that is very plain sexual violence. That is the basis to disband police departments that are committed to perverted, demented sexual acts against the rights of American citizens. That is not protecting and serving. That is antithetical to the oaths that they take. It's entirely weird as well. These are demons that have that obsession with your private moments in a bathroom, who find it useful and vital enough to use helicopters, waste millions of dollars and resources that can be better spent in the city, rather than engaging in criminal activity that is also sexually perverted, sexually motivated, predatory in nature. This is understanding and recognizing sexual violence by an entity. All right, the entity is doing so again, 3 a.m., another plane hovering above, as you've seen on video. Not only are demons stalking in commercial planes, American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, you have UPS, obviously, FedEx, Amazon Prime, all of whom I have documented gang stalking me while the fake sun is over my head, and the entity is hovering wherever I am located in the city of Ontario by commercial planes, as though they are perpetually taking off everywhere in the city. Just because you have an airport in the city does not equal planes are taking off everywhere in the city, hovering over everywhere in the city. The entity is taking off over the Woodside Senior Apartments, which is nowhere near 2500 Terminal Way or 2900 Terminal Way, where from the terminals, the planes accelerate and they immediately take off at an incline, a sharp incline into the sky, and are under no circumstances flying to be at a remaining low elevation, hovering over the roof of Woodside Senior Apartments, which is also a multifamily zoning area. All right, where they are flying over a senior citizen complex at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, disrupting quiet enjoyment rights, which again, the elderly that are gang stalking, demon possessed gang stalking sex offenders do not complain about the helicopters flying in circles over them. They don't complain about the commercial planes hovering over them. All right. They don't complain about the ongoing loud activity, which is speaking to activity creation, because these demons are gang stalking. Nobody notices that the phenomenon of a sun remains for over 10 hours, as I've documented, 7:18 to 6:27. Nobody has reported to the news this phenomenon. Nobody's pulling out there, taking any pictures of this phenomenon. Everyone acts like it's not happening. That is on its face entirely exceptional. It's supernatural. Nobody notices that either. That's not a coincidence. This is a malicious system that the city of Ontario, that is, Paul Leon knows all about it. Paul Leon is a demon. Paul Leon is a sex offender. And Paul Leon no longer has any seat as a mayor. Understand all the ways in which you are identifying public corruption, and you shall under no circumstances remain as a government official where domestic terrorism is happening in the state. You are incapable of exposing it, identifying it, weeding it out. It's occurring and festering, thriving on your watch. You're fired. All right. But you know more than that, because it's not merely dereliction of duty or negligence. Paul Leon is a part of the same demon-possessed population who was gang stalking in Ontario, California, knows all about the wasted resources using helicopters to stalk a woman in a bathroom, obsessed with her genitalia and what she's doing in that bathroom as she's doing it, and does more of that terrorizing conduct to threaten her life because they want to continue sexually violating her and are hostile to the documentation, enforcing her rights and her very life. Because any person reasonably fears for their life, where the government is unreasonably and for no legitimate purpose stalking them everywhere that they're going, which is the behavior of demons. The entity is engaging in this at Woodside Senior Apartments at 408 West G Street. And like I stated, this is what I captured on video. And moments before I captured the Ontario Police Department, it was Ontario International Airport. Gang stalking. What are the elements that are present? While demons are monitoring you, there are three elements where you are recognizing an environment that a demon-possessed population is corporately maintaining. This is, you are surrounded by demonic activity on an ongoing basis. That is, the spiritual realm is right in front of your face on a ceaseless basis, and you are just ignorant about it. But the spiritual realm is right in front of you. Okay. So you're talking about flying planes in the sky space. That's called crossing a path. All right. And they're doing so with regard to the amplified. That is the abnormally loud volume. In other words, it's as though it's on a microphone. And it's also occurring inside of this apartment, the sound of whatever method of amplified audible activity, since we're talking about stalking in commercial planes over the senior citizen complex at 2:00 in the morning, where there are no arrivals or departures until as early as 5 a.m. As I took a screenshot of Ontario International Airport's published flights going to and coming from the two terminals. The entity is sounding plane activity at this hour in this zone at this frequency. And as the Ontario International Airport is documented on my phone, which is, again, public information while I'm kept under surveillance by a demon-possessed entity that fills the city of Ontario, this is exposing the criminal system that is going on in the state of California. It is a matter of public corruption. The entity is engaged in what is immediately stalking in helicopters, meaning the Ontario Police Department, by the way, they didn't just arrive in helicopter. They are gang stalking right now, and they are always engaged in 24-hour gang stalking, monitoring criminal surveillance. This is what they are actually wasting resources on. This is the reality of what these cities and these counties are spending millions and billions of dollars on, and much of it is criminal activity. It costs a lot of money to keep helicopters fueled up, to keep a person under surveillance, especially me. I cause the government to work very hard because I'm heavily documenting them. And the entity, you're talking about the demon-possessed who are mentally unstable. These are psychopaths. Psychopaths act with specific knowledge, desire, purpose, willfully, and maliciously. They're not ignorant about the criminality of their conduct. They don't act with, ignorance regarding whether it's lawful or unlawful. It's not criminal insanity. It's psychopathic, sociopathic, that which they are gratified by, that which they will continue to do in order to achieve the objective. Understand the purpose of police departments gang stalking. It's to maliciously murder and kidnap someone. This is not child's play where the police are engaged in criminal surveillance. They are in hundreds of videos showing engagement in a criminal system designed to result in murdering and kidnapping an American citizen. And they have done so for the benefit of the world to learn from, but also for you to appreciate the threat that the ordinary target individual who has no voice, who has no one to report the crime to. I've been in that situation. I currently remain in that situation, but I have a body of evidence, and nothing is going to happen to me. But I devoted myself a long time ago. If anything happens to me, it's not going to be a secret what happened to me. I made it my mission to make sure I left my footprint and that there's no question, unless the entity itself, just removed it, which again, the entity could do that, but I did my part with regard to being obedient to what the Lord told me to do. And I published, which is putting it on the world stage, what the state of California has been doing to me for years. And the state of California is acting in concert acting via blood relatives, such as the person that gave birth to me. Okay. You would ordinarily refer to that person as a maternal figure, a mom, a mother. All right. But again, that's a term of art. And I do not believe that, and it's also scriptural, I do not believe that your mother, your father, your family, in other words, are those that you are necessarily blood related to. And just as a way of life, you're not actually a mother when you are engaged in conspiring against your blood relatives to murder and kidnap them. And the evidence against Tracy Banks is it's so spectacularly large. It speaks for itself. So, that's neither here nor there. But again, Christ himself said, who is my mother and father, but he who does the will of my father, who is my mother and brother, but he who does the will of my father. And so Jesus is depicting in scripture, his family is not necessarily those that, and not to be cruel or anything, but this is true. And I'm living it. Okay. Scripture also speaks of the enemies that will be in your household. Okay. And the government, legally speaking, they are facilitating your murder and kidnapping using those closest to you. It's intolerable facilitation. It's in automatic. It is axiomatic. Blood relatives, friends, those that the target individual knows, just like in any murder case, for example, everybody recognizes, because everyone is familiar with like 48 hours and Dateline, etc. It's always the spouses, whoever they were romantically involved with. Those are the first people, all right, that are suspected. It is the same thing with regard to the prosecution of an entity where there is a loss of life or gang stalking is underway. Even if there's not a loss of life, you're talking about prosecuting the state for gang stalking, you are going to federal prison where you are a blood relative, where you're a close friend. You are providing a facilitation to the government that's seeking to murder through you, because you're trying to murder that person as well. Okay. This is the malice of demons, by the way. This is the malice of demons. So nonetheless, I just want to get back to what I was speaking to. The Ontario International Airport, by virtue of understanding how sexual violence is recognized and appreciated under federal law, this is what an airport is practicing. It goes without saying, where you are exposed as a corrupt business that is a sex offender upon federal group stalking and monitoring, violating the privacy of American citizens, going to the unheard of lengths of stalking in commercial planes, and in doing so while they're yet engaged in private activity. That's so ridiculously demented. This is the that which is supporting just removing that business, removing that, for example, airport, which does not have to exist. The Ontario International Airport is not mandatory. It does not have to exist. And based on their criminal conduct, based on how egregious it is, based on how unheard of and demented, based on the degenerates who are getting paid to engage in sexual violence and domestic terrorism, it rises to the level of removing that airport altogether, which becomes more of a liability than a benefit to the city. All right. I want to make sure that understand this is what the entity is doing. Ontario International Airport has documented gang stalking in planes. As I am documenting, I want to look at the document right now. I am in the midst on my Samsung notes, WSA the people. Every day I'm maintaining documentation, just with regard to providing that, which again, you're not actually going to understand what is gang stalking, group stalking, the experience of the target individual, unless you live it. All right. But advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual, I do my best in order to help someone understand it in the abstract. And so I do document. And you can see, even as I'm documenting, I'm typing out sentences, and in the middle of the sentence, the demons are right now, my voice is the audible activity. Okay. But when I am silent in the apartment, the demon in 55, you're talking about stomping. Everything that I'm stomping, the moment that I reference the demon in 55, this demon is stomping. And what is significant of stopping? You're talking about what is literally criminalizing everything that's happening in a specific environment, because the government, Jay Burnett, the Ontario Police Department, they don't have a right to engage in surveillance being outside of this apartment on the sidewalk in front. They don't, without a warrant or probable cause, without there being any crime. They don't have a right to do that. They don't have a right to do it by doing so and being in the apartment above through a third party. They don't have a right to do it by stalking in the sky space in helicopters. This is what they do, though, vicariously, while demons, those who share a spiritual condition that is mutual and invisible to you, but yet you shall know them by their deeds. They practice an identical pattern of conduct, and it's for your safety, not to incite paranoia. That is not what the Lord is spreading right now. This is not about being paranoid. This is about recognizing the times that we're in, because the fake sun that I'm showing you, where I'm in a particular location in California, you know exactly what you're surrounded by wherever you are in Nebraska, wherever you are in Florida, wherever you are, even in, the state of Nevada is gang stalking, but wherever you're located, in other words, you are able to identify the specific environment around you, because why? The exclusivity of the sun, which the entity is using to show where demons are stalking, where demonic activity, where the system is underway. Because it's so exclusive. There is no sun that ever left the strip of the this property where Woodside Senior Apartments is, as I document, and I document this same pattern everywhere that I go. There is no provision for the natural environment to include a sun over you in Missouri. This is how everyone else in this country knows what's going on. There is a behavioral pattern that's happening, and it's, again, shared with the constituents of the state. The government itself is engaged in criminal surveillance. And this is also witnessing what is the right, what is actionable, enforcing your constitutional rights against a government that is threatening your life, trying to murder and kidnap you, because that's why the state is keeping you under surveillance. And police are engaged in stalking you because they are literally trying to murder you. Murderers and sex offenders shall not have any position as a mayor. They shall not have any position facilitating it, by the way. If you're facilitating gang stalking, you are gang stalking. You shall not sit as a mayor. That is the end of your career. The entity is as a mayor, as a public official. You are not sitting as a public official. The entity is engaging in what is this pattern of conduct as a corrupt police department. No sex offender, no murderer has any business having any authority under the law represented by a badge. And bearing any weapons and wearing a uniform, authorizing them to go around and maliciously murder and kidnap people, exercise authority under the law as though it actually exists, and it doesn't. The Ontario Police Department is entirely delusional. They're delusional. They're also sex offenders. They're obsessed with my genitalia. And that you are witnessing yourselves while they're crossing path in a helicopter. That helicopter is amplified in volume inside of this apartment. Impossible light activity is what surrounds me as my shadows both upright on the wall. 2 of them are upright on the wall in front of me, and 1 shadow is behind me. That is not the product of standing under artificial light, these light fixtures that are on the apartment buildings. This is a specific environment that's present day and night. This is criminal monitoring. A police department that's interested in what I'm doing in a bathroom is exposed as a sex offender. An airport that's engaged and interested in criminal monitoring while you're in a bathroom is exposed as a sex offender. It's not going to be treated distinctly, because the traditional definition of sexual violence is speaking to a person, okay, that's violating your person physically, touching you, or even capturing your images without your consent. And by the way, the entity engages in this. They place you on the dark web. They keep you under surveillance. They place cameras in your home. You're talking about, with regard to the entity gang stalking you through people that you know, any relationships that you have, any sexual activity that you may partake in. You're doing so with the entity, where you have not consented to what is analogous to the creation of essentially pornography. That's a sex offense. These are all the ways in which the entity is engaging in what is the perpetual sex offense. The perpetual sex offense is not one specific method of sexual violence. The perpetual sex offense, there's an umbrella where I've shown you all the ways in which the entity is sexually violating an American citizen. So this is opening your mind, because you are actually surrounded by sex offenders everywhere you go. This is perverted behavior. It's predatory behavior. It's sexually motivated, and it's entirely improper and violative. And it's practiced routinely by demons who are gang stalking. That's very, very disturbing. And this is the reality. So I just wanted to go through that. The Ontario International Airport it is a sex offender. And so that's what I mean when I use those very words. That's exactly what I mean. So I'm breaking down your understanding of the system of federal group stalking and monitoring, ordinarily referred to, in the vernacular, like gang stalking. You are exposed. You can be prosecuted as a sex offender as a company name, the logo itself. I will drag your company name and expose you as a sex offender, and I will prosecute you civilly and criminally, and you will compensate me for the harms inflicted while you and your demon-possessed employees bearing your logo, which also continuously inflicts harm to me, as I am always subject to the psychological torture related to that sexual violence that corrupt company maliciously misusing a company for the criminal purposes of a state. Yes, you will be civilly and criminally prosecuted for that. All right, it's protecting the dignity of American citizens who have a right to not have their genitalia monitored in bathrooms, in their home, in their castle, or their children, etc., etc. It's very sick. This is what the demon-possessed government is practicing. Treating people, by the way, like they're animals. I'm not a lab rat. You're witnessing that while I'm exposing you and I'm prosecuting you. So the entity is doing so, and this is recognizing what is sexual violence by an entity that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitor, gang stalking, criminal surveillance. It is also the basis of substantial, devastating civil damages. It is the basis for removing actors altogether. You want to practice sexual violence? This is what you're doing with commercial planes? You don't have anything else to do? Then you don't need to exist altogether. The Ontario International Airport has documented years of terrorism. It's literally in sworn documents that have been submitted to the courts. The Ontario International Airport is done altogether. And I just want you to hear, while they act with impunity, gang stalking right now, 3:19 a.m. That's the ongoing roaring of planes that I can hear inside of the apartment, and that's impossible for me to be able to hear. You must be flying at a very low elevation. All right. I want to be clear. That's not congruent with taking off from the Ontario International Airport from any direction. At what point are you hovering over? You are necessarily coming back down at a lower elevation to be anywhere over the roof, like you've already seen on video, hovering over as though they are heightening again in elevation from Woodside Senior Apartments, flying in the direction west. And they're doing so under the fake sun and the fake moon in concert with what is the identification, the universal identification of gang stalking, as I have shown you in this specific environment. All these police departments stalking me by helicopter. Since this is what you are devoted to, you are showing that this airport is not necessary in this city, and it can save a lot of money. It can be better utilized in the city, especially with all the empty seats that are going to be vacant, with all these demons, these corrupt government public officials, that are going to be plucked out. All right. It is currently 3:20 a.m. And it is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. This is again going over and understanding the policies regarding sexual violence, protecting the dignity of American citizens whose privacy is invaded by a population. Every single person that's living in the city. You're talking about any random demon. Just go park right now in the parking lot. Okay. Because they sit in the parking lot, they're engaged in surveillance, they're monitoring using their communication devices, aware of everything that I'm saying inside of my phone, gang stalking with the entity that flies over by helicopter, flies over by commercial plane, gang stalking with the demon in 55 who'll just engage in pacing, all right, like a rabies infected animal chasing her tail, just running around in circles. Okay. The entity is engaged and she stomps with real time knowledge of what it is that I'm stating. That's exactly what I'm talking about with regard to all of them corporately, a citywide sex act while they're monitoring my genitalia. Being interested in my genitalia is a violent sex offense that no male or female should be subject to. You have a constitutional right to not be subject to that. This demon that's living in 55, she is so mentally disturbed and unstable. She is going to a mental asylum. All right. That is your poor decision-making skills as a mentally unstable, demon-possessed gang stalker. Okay. They lack self-control. They make poor decisions. They act impulsively. And they do so with regard to some illusion that you're getting some sort of retaliation that doesn't exist when you're being federally prosecuted. You continue to provide evidence to the federal prosecutor who is going to make a decision regarding your future when you're prosecuted. She's going to a mental asylum. She provided that evidence against herself. She did that. Federal prison is the mandatory penalty for gang stalking living at a facilitated venue. And you're talking about a whole apartment building because that's what Alvarado Gardens is getting. All right. But there's 144 units. I do not advocate that numerosity should be any bar to justice. However, I am satisfied that the demons physically surrounding me, units 33 through 64, are all going to federal prison. Every single last one of them. They can move out the time that I'm here, the dates that I'm here. You can move wherever you want unless you move out of the country. And if you do, it's going to be known who you are because you're not coming back. But nonetheless, you are all going to federal prison. Mandatory. With regard to living, working at a facility, you're helping the police who want to murder and kidnap someone, you're going to federal prison. You want to act with the impunity that the demon in 55, that the demon Tracy Banks exhibits, you're going to federal prison. Period. All right. The entity has made it far too convenient for a population, for a government to essentially murder an American citizen through organized crime. All right. So this is, again, a commensurate with regard to the level of malice as a corrupt government is targeting American citizens. And justice requires nothing less than this. Nothing less than this. This is nothing other than a federal response to what I found myself subject to and finding also no resolution. So it's like I'm not only telling about the problem and proving the fact of the problem. This is what you do about it. And this is what you have to do about it because of the nature of this crime. All right. So again, it's currently 3:23 a.m. on Wednesday, December 11, 2024. This is P.O.C.